of his stories, and hey, I'll tell you, he's had to deal with a whole lot. So let's, Lord, be with Ron as he shares with us from the heart and from his spirit. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen.
I think the first thing I'd like to do is just make sure I truly do thank God. I thank this church because this truly is my home, and I consider each one of you guys really just awesome people for opening the doors and let people in. First thing I'd have to talk about was my childhood. My dad was a monster, straight and simple. Molested me and my brother, I don't know for how long. My brother, died 2009, but my brother grew up, and all it was about was violence, hatred. The dude was mean as a snake, but he loved to fight. He was very good at it. So he pretty much ruled with violence and intimidation pretty much till he died. My mom wasn't hardly ever at home, so whatever happened at home happened at home. She didn't care. She said as long as it happened at home, we didn't take it out on the streets. She didn't care. So that's basically the way I grew up. I enlisted in the service in 1981. I went to Vo-Tech first, though, in high school, and I took the ASVAB test to get into Vo-Tech. So 2 years later, I take the same test to get into the service. Just a little fact figures, they only take the top 5% of all Navy people go subs. Okay, so that just tells you, and it doesn't really matter what your personality is. Kind of like with God, it doesn't matter what your personality is, they just care about your test scores. So if your test scores are high, it doesn't matter, what kind of life you came out of, whatever's going on with you. As long as your test scores are high, you can get in. So I went to, the first thing I did was we get on a plane, go to San Diego boot camp, leave San Diego, go to Groton, Connecticut. That's where sub school is. I get stationed on the USS Nathan Hale, and I wear the shirt. It was commissioned the same year I was born, 1963. Okay, so they had 18 years to perfect everything that they were doing on that submarine as far as hazing, as far as any of this is concerned. And trust me, as an 18-year-old kid, I went through a lot of stuff. There was absolutely predators on the submarine waiting for 18-year-old kids to come through. And the hazing was absolutely extreme. But see, and one thing when I look back on it all, God prepared me for all this by my childhood and being around my brother. I didn't even really know I could fight till I was a sophomore in high school. I didn't even know because my brother beat my butt so much. I didn't even know. It was just no-win situation with him, no matter what. I think but the whole time I remembered, I probably only beat his butt 3 times. And that was just only because I got inside of him and got him on the ground. And that's just, like I said, that's just how mean he was. He couldn't be dealt with on any kind of level. And so I left, I got stationed in 1981, left sub school, got stationed on the USS Nathan Hale. First person I meet is the Master Chief of the submarine. Okay, we're talking about an E8. Okay, I'm an E1. I don't even know what an E8 looks like. I don't. I've never met one in my whole life. But here's one telling me, okay, you're going to come with me, go to my house for Thanksgiving dinner, and then we're going to go to the XO's house and party. Okay, the XO is the second most senior officer on the submarine, lieutenant commander. Everybody on the submarine's at this guy's house getting drunk. And I've been drinking for quite a while. We started drug use very early in my home. My mom didn't care about that either. We drank very early in our lives. So by the time I got in the service, I could drink. I really could. I could drink, and I could drink a lot because I was young, and didn't care. So it didn't matter. We'd have beer ball games, all this crazy stuff going on. Well, in 1985, I made my first patrol. I didn't even know really what a United States submarine looked like. Okay, I used to watch Jacques Cousteau as a kid, and they're all in these cool little submarines, you can see out of. No, that won't happen. And everything was cool, in Jacques Cousteau's world. On the submarine world, nothing was good. We had some of the best. I tell you, I'm never so proud sometimes of some of the stuff that we did, but also just absolutely horrified about some of the other stuff that happened. If you weren't part of the hazing crew and tried to do anything about it, you were blackballed and automatically would never get back on a submarine in your life. They would just automatically captain smash you, strip you of everything, and ship you off. So the big thing was everybody knew about it on the submarine, what was going on. We used to go through so many rolls of EB green tape, taping people up and putting them places. That was the normal standard operational procedure as far as people on as far as the enlisted crew was. Everybody was free game. My master chief said there's only 3 people on the submarine that you can't touch: the captain, XO, and me. He goes, and my chain of command goes from God to me. And I was pretty impressed about that, you know. But so everything else was okay. It didn't matter as long as as long as the officer didn't write you up. It didn't matter if we taped you up and put you somewhere and let you, figure out if somebody could come find you, because we had pretty places to hide from. Submarine was 425 feet long, 33 feet wide, 3 stories tall without the sail. And I just looked up some information, and as of 2014, there's like 55,000 enlisted men in the submarine service. We were told we were the best. I mean, and we proved it over and over. And we had our own shore patrol attached to the submarine squadron that would come pick us up if we couldn't get out of the bar. They would come to the bar, pick you up, take you wherever you lived at, or if you were on the base, put you in a bed, and nothing would ever happen. So once again, here I am in a world where nobody cares, and I can do what I want as long as I go by their rules. Well, I became very proficient at a number of different things. I became very proficient at driving the submarine. I loved to drive the submarine. I used to love coming home and telling people, what do you do for a living? I drive a $9 billion submarine for a living. What do you do? And nobody would even talk to me after that. But I remember one time, and I'm not talking about all the time, but one time we do a battle E efficiency, which means you go out and you do war games in the Arctic Ocean, in the Arctic island chain. One of the deepest parts of the ocean there is. So if you go down past your test depth, guess what, you're dying. It's just a matter of fact that the sub is only going to go so deep, and then it just turns into fish food on the bottom of the ocean. We were going down. We started at like 600 feet. We're doing a torpedo evasion. We have 3 criteria. You got to be going ahead flank, be doing a corkscrew action down to the bottom of the submarine, and doing a 30-degree down bubble. So you're going down like this, and you're sitting in a chair. You're going down to the bottom of the ocean. And we get past 1,300 feet, and the test depth alarm's going nuts. My captain's on the con, and he looks at me, he goes, "Seaman Hiles, turn that test depth alarm off." So I turned it off. Commodore's standing right beside me. We're all going down to the bottom of the ocean. I'm like, uh-oh, we're going to be in trouble. 1,425 feet, we came back up to 1,300 feet, and the Commodore looks at me and goes, "Did you like that?" I was like, "Yeah, but I don't want to do it again." The test depth on our submarine, and since they already gave this information in Hunt for Red October, I have no problems giving you classified information because it's already out there. Our test depth was 1,300 feet. The maximum speed we could get was 30 knots underwater. On the surface, we were slow as heck. But we were deadly quiet. I mean, deadly quiet. Everybody wore tennis shoes on the submarine. You couldn't wear nothing but tennis shoes when you're on the sub out at sea, because they wanted you to be that quiet. Everything was sound silence. Everything had certain criteria, man. It couldn't make no noise. They would take. I remember the sound people came on the submarine. They're using stethoscopes on stuff to make sure they don't make no noise. That's just how quiet we were, and we're deadly quiet. And I did 7 patrols, 7 deterrent patrols. I figured it out. I spent about 420 days total in a 4-year period out at sea underneath the ocean. One of the biggest things I really enjoyed doing was after I learned to drive, you qualify submarines, and they give you a set of dolphins, kind of look like this stuff on my hat, but it's smaller. It's a little pin that goes on your chest. I didn't know this either, but once you get qualified, everybody that is qualified gets to hit you one time in the chest. So we got people on the submarine that are bruised from here to here. I mean, dude, we break the ribs. It doesn't matter. As I said, all this was okay. And they encouraged it. There was never a time that somebody didn't say, you know, look, that's enough. We had a Lieutenant J.G. come on board. This was like almost at the end of my service on the sub. We had a Lieutenant J.G. on the boat. I came on board and actually had enough nerve to tell everybody that he wasn't going to get taped up. Dude, they taped that guy up. We taped that guy up everywhere. We had him taped up in the overboard of the IC department for 3 days until the captain made me give him back. Captain looked at me and said, Hiles, where's he at? Why are you asking me? I mean, they already knew because there was like 8 of us that came to the sub all at once. And we had this little tight-knit crew. You couldn't mess with one of us. I mean, if you messed with one of us, you had to mess with us all. And that was the submarine attitude, basically. Out at sea, man, we were all brothers. I mean, it really was. It was just absolutely chaos out of control. But also in the middle of that chaos, I flourished. If you look at my first 4 years of my DD-214, man, you see all this, all this stuff that I did, all these schools they sent me to, all this, and I mean, I would max out everything. So I loved it. You know, it was absolutely the perfect place for me. Don't ask me why. But once I left the submarine service, everything fell apart. My life started falling apart because I was no longer a part of that chaotic little group. They put me in the regular Navy, and I didn't know how to act. You know, I thought everything was supposed to be like it was on the submarine, and I'm like, well, no, I act like this, and they're like, no, you're going to act like that. And I'm like, wait, well, first of all, I'm only 22 years old. I know what everything needs to be for me, and I know it all. So the first mistake I made was seeking that. Second mistake was going to a school that submariners were not even supposed to go to, but I asked my captain if I could go, and he pulled a few strings, and Washington, sure enough, I went. Not a good thing. Ended up being stationed at TRF in Bangor, Washington, working on Trident submarines for about 3 years. My best friends introduced me to crack cocaine in 1986. Got to remember, before all this, you know, my brother learned to fight. I learned to hide. I learned to hide very well, even from myself, from a lot of stuff. And crack cocaine was the perfect drug for me because it helped me to hide. Hide from God, hide from all of the world. You know, I don't have to worry about anything because now this is my God. And I mean, dude, talk about crazy. I got out of the service in '88. I got asked to leave because we did a urinalysis, and of course the weed is so potent in Washington. I blew the radar off. I blew it off. So 45 days restriction, 45 days extra duty. I'm out of the Navy. 6 months later, I'm in prison. 1989, 1988, Jackson County Jail. I'm sitting in prison. I really didn't even, I mean, life was going so fast, and I was going so fast that, you know, and God had to set me down, and he sent some guy named Tony Swisher in to talk to me about Jesus Christ in 1989. So I gave my life to Jesus in 1989, not saying that this was going to be the end of all the turmoil and everything that I went through, because I never dealt with my PTSD until 2013. I never dealt with anything as far as my emotional content of what happened to me, about being able to talk to you people about like what I'm talking to you now. I'm going to fast forward to 2013 because it's pretty important. 2013, I started talking about what was wrong with me. I had military sexual trauma. I had sexual trauma as a child. I had abuse. I had all this stuff that went on. And trust me, it was absolutely devastating because one thing, I didn't know how to talk to anybody about. I didn't know there were people out there that were like me, that were looking for somebody to talk to, and had a place where it was safe to talk to them about it. 2013, I started going to MOXA, like I told Bill. And MOXA is set up for people that have been sexually abused. Fantastic organization. Taught me about mindfulness. Taught me about all this stuff. And they got me prepared for the PTSD clinic, is all they did. Because by the time I got to the PTSD clinic, I pretty much knew I was in for a fight. And it was a spiritual battle. It's always been a spiritual battle, but inside of me there was all this confusion about everything. I mean, between, people of period, men, women, anything that could possibly be an issue was an issue. And of course, I didn't know how to deal with none of it. I didn't, because I didn't know how. And I don't know how much I even cared. I've been to prison 3 times. I've been to prison 3 times in my life. 2 of those times I went to prison, I was saved and born again. So it just goes to show you, if you don't put the work in, nothing really happens. It does say old things are passed away, behold, all things become new. But some of those old things that pass away need to be worked through, need to be processed. Have a long list of have a long list of stuff that are tailing on with them, because it's just that devastating, and it twists your soul up. And God was amazing, trust me. I got out of prison. The first time I got out of prison, I came out of prison like I was on fire it was like Jeremiah said, it was like fire shut up in my bones. It was like I could actually tell you that it was like in Acts, that the fire came down and set on me, and I was literally on fire inside of me. I came out, and it was just devastating, because I was trying to hide behind God. Now, I'm going to hide behind God and say, okay, the Word of God says this, so this must be true, and it is true. Trust me, to this day, I still love the Lord. I still know what the Bible says, but today is a whole different day. Because of the PTSD clinic, because of people in Moxa and people at Fresh Start and people all over Kansas City and Leavenworth, Kansas, that allowed me to talk about what's really going on with me. I never was, and I'm not going to drag you through some of the stuff that I've been through, because it's absolutely horrible. But one thing too is, it's not the worst thing that ever could have happened. That's the kicker. And really, truly, all God did was prepare me for a time and a place just like this, so I could tell you, look, if you've been abused, there's a place you can go. If you've been abused, and everything's all twisted up and sideways and upside down, there's people out there that are waiting for you to show up, and they're there to help you. And trust me, they are. Between Chaplain Sullivan and Chaplain Sam, first time I met Chaplain Sam in 2014, he had his Lansing Correctional shirt on. I'll tell the story all the time. And I asked him, I'm like, can I go? And he said, yes. So I'm running around the dome going, I'm going to prison. I'm going to prison. Everybody looking at me like, man, this dude's lost his mind. But they just don't know what God has done for me, and didn't know what God had been doing. 2009, the last time I got locked up, and that's the last time I hopefully will ever get locked up again. I went blind in St. Joseph Correctional Center. Went blind, completely blind. I had cataracts so bad I couldn't see. Well, they sent me to Boonville. The worst place they could ever send you for medical is Boonville. The lady that checked me in at Boonville told me that. But God sent me to the best place He could possibly send me to get my cataract surgery done in Jeff City. It all worked out. That's why when they told me I had cancer, no big deal, man, God's got this. What's cancer compared to a drug addiction? Nothing. I mean, I don't think there's anything more spiritually devastating than drugs. I may be wrong, well, except probably Satanism, but that's probably all hand in hand. I don't know. But I know one thing, that if you look at every drug in the world has a spirit behind it. Whether you use it for good or use it for bad. But I tell you one thing right now, I will never again in my life take a medication that's not prescribed for me ever again. And trust me, I've been through everything. Between crack cocaine for 30 years, heroin, methamphetamines. I was dead in my floor in my apartment for 10 minutes. The ambulance crew was working on me for 10 minutes, 7 things of Narcopan later. They bring me back to life, and the ambulance driver's jumping around saying, look, thank you, Jesus. That's the only thing I remember. Then I, remember getting to the hospital. And really, I didn't really know how devastating it was till I went home. And my whole living room looked like somebody took a grenade and dropped it in there and just blew everything apart. And all this stuff that they used on me to get me to come back to life was still there. And God's like, look, fast forward a little bit more. Some problems occurred in the church that I was involved with. So, of course, I immediately run to my creature of habit. I run to my drugs. I run to the drugs because I don't know. I mean, I knew better, but I just didn't want it. I don't know if I wanted to take what it took to get me through the fact that there was a fight that broke out at church and I had to stop it, and they wanted me to take responsibility for the guy getting hurt. I just couldn't do it. I just said, God, I'm done for a while. So I came back to Leavenworth this last time. Went to Chaplain Collier's church. I don't know if anybody here knows him. He used to be the chaplain. Him and his wife were chaplain at the VA. Lovely people. Just got a church right over on Spruce. Went there, rededicated my life to Jesus Christ, and started just saying, okay, Kansas City's a problem for me. Plain and simple. My little brother, I just talked to him. He's not really my little brother, but he's my best friend that still lives in Kansas City. He's still doing the same thing he's doing, but I told him today, I'm like, look, dude, I'm praying for you. And I'm telling you right now, life could not be no better than what I got it right now. I have a church family that cares. I got a place that cares about me. I got Chris that works there, Jeremy. I got Sam. I got Point Man. I got the NA Hall, RIP, where I chair meetings. I'm doing what God has told me to do. I'm on the church board. I actually got keys to the church. I know back in the day, you wouldn't have gave me a key to nothing. Because I tell you, I didn't need a key in the first place. I just break the door down and steal everything inside. Heck with a key. That takes too much work. Unfortunately, my brother died in 2009 of an overdose. They called it an accidental overdose, but my brother was a professional. Trust me, he did it on purpose. I don't know why. I think one of the things is that he just got such bad news that he didn't want to live through the fact of whatever he was living through, and he took himself out. I did not find out that my dad had done what my dad had done until my dad was dead. My dad was dead and buried about 10 years before God showed me what happened with me and my dad, because I blacked it all out. I mean, I couldn't remember nothing from my childhood from about 3 years old to about 10 years old. I don't remember nothing until God showed me what happened. And he didn't show me all of it. He just showed me enough that I could be informed and get something done about it. I thank God for you guys, every one of you. I hope something I said, is encouraging. Just remember, sometimes in your life you look and think, well, Lord, why am I going through this? Well, you're going through this, and because of the victory that's going to come on the other side. And trust me, today I'm living in that victory. I have one of the nicest places in the world to live. I never thought I'd like Leavenworth. I love it. I love this church. Obviously, this is the second time I've been here. The first time me and Sam hung out thick as thieves, did everything together, but COVID unfortunately shot it. But we still do a lot of stuff. There's so much stuff to be involved in. And I just thank you for your time. Thank you. Anybody got any questions?
Where did you grow up? In St. Joseph?
I grew up in Independence, Missouri,
Okay.
right there by the Truman Library on Nickel. It's right there by there's like a college campus right there. We grew up right across from that. In 1977, we moved to Blue Springs. My mom moved us to Blue Springs to get away from the drugs. My brother brought them all right with him. When we moved to Blue Springs, there was only 4 stoplights. Only had one high school. Was graduating class about 300 people. My brother sold dope to all them. I guarantee you, if you bought dope in Blue Springs in the 70s, you bought it from my brother. Because he was, that's just how much traffic was coming in and out of my mom's house. Once again, mom don't care. Mom don't care. So I tell you right now, if you have children in your house that are unruly, and don't let them dictate to you what to do in your own house. It's your house. That was my mom's biggest mistake. My mom's big mistake is saying, okay, I'm going to give a 14-year-old kid the keys to the house. What do you expect? I don't know what you expect to happen. But by that time, we were already doing stuff. So it wasn't I mean, it was just another step in the chain. But I told Jack this, and I think Jack was kind of surprised. I've never really been that patriotic, except for about the last 2 years. I admit that right off the bat. If you told me to stand for the Pledge of Allegiance, I wouldn't stand. I actually went to my daughter's school when she was little. They told everybody to stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I did not stand. My mom got embarrassed. She's like, stand up. I'm like, no, I don't have to stand up. I serve my country. They did all this stuff to me. I'm not standing up. I refuse to. But that's just because all that stuff was all wrapped up in here, and I was so mad, man. I didn't know how to deal with any of it. Today I stand up. Today I'll say the Pledge of Allegiance. I will salute. That's also because of Sam. And also because of Jack and David and all you guys that have shown me really that even in the midst of my stuff, I can still honor God and still say, look, man, it was important what I did. I was on a nuclear-powered submarine for 4 years in the midst of all this chaos, but yet in the midst of all this chaos, I had some of the most fun that I ever had in my life and stuff that I could never, people have not done. I mean, I asked this in a big group one time, how many show of hands has anybody's been to 425 feet below the ocean? Okay. That's just one instance, and we've spent 420 days out at sea in a 4-year period of time, so you know there was a lot of chaos going on. I had my part in that, because once again, like David said, if you weren't part of the problem, you were definitely not on there. You were not even, they would get rid of you. You couldn't make no waves about it. Couldn't tell nobody. We didn't have a chaplain. I didn't even know chaplains existed until I met him. I really didn't. I mean, I knew what pastors were. I never even seen a chaplain. We didn't see anybody, and we definitely didn't have no respect for nobody that wasn't a submarine. We barely showed up for musters in clothes. If we showed up in clothes and mustered and said we were still alive, they were fine. That's all they cared about. You're still alive. Okay, good. Anybody else?
Did you ever have to deal with a death on a submarine?
Yeah, we went. It was all war games. We did do an OT launch, which is an operational test of your missile system in Cape Canaveral, where we actually got to launch 2 dummy Poseidon-class missiles. We came within 5 yards of the target. 5 yards to a 200 megaton warhead isn't a whole lot. It's like throwing a grenade in here, and I'm here and you're there. Very accurate. Everything's ran off of a SINS unit that's got 4 gyroscopes in this plasma field inside of it, and that's what dictates to you where you are in the world. Accurate beyond belief. And we had some of the best officers that knew how to hunt and knew how to kill enemy people, even though that's not what our job was. Our job was just to go out and sit in the middle of the ocean and do nothing, and then come back home. But they still wanted us to be combat ready, so some of the people that we had on our sub came from fast attacks, came from diesel boats. And these guys were all super efficient at killing people with a torpedo and with a fire control tachyparties. Anything else? We were nuclear powered. We had a nuclear reactor on board. We had the capability of carrying nuclear weapons. We had 16 missile tubes on board, so you figure it out. We carried about 24 torpedoes. Only had 1 fire the whole time I was in the sub, and it scared the crap out of me. Only 1 real fire. We trained for everything, night, day. Day was automatic. I mean, it still scared me to death. Not less of those. I mean, nothing else. I mean, going from 1,300 feet to the surface of the ocean, doing 45 knots up at a 35-degree up angle, blowing ballast tanks all the way up, and you come out like a whale and smash smash down. It's like being in a rocket ship. I mean, I considered it that was my roller coaster when I was in the service. I mean, it just was. I mean, it was absolutely amazing to drive it. When I left driving it to become an interior communications electrician, within 2 years I was running the division, running the supply office, I was hands down one of the best interior communications electricians. I didn't really even know. I didn't really find that. My captain went to bat for me against the engineer. We got a brand new engineer, my last patrol. He said, we're going to change everything we're doing in the engine room. I'm like, no, we're not. I'm an E5. I've been on this submarine for 7 patrols. You are not going to tell me what to do. We're talking about a lieutenant commander. We're talking about an 05. This guy can write me up and get me kicked out of the Navy. I'm sitting there looking at him dead in his face, telling me he ain't going to tell me what to do, and the captain heard me talking to him. So he goes walking down. He goes storming off down to the officers, and he's going to write me up. Captain come in there, and navigator told me, he goes, Captain came in there and said, "You write him up, you're fired." That's just how tight we were. This dude was never been out to sea with us. I'd been out there 7 patrols. My captain knew that I knew everything that they didn't want to know about my division, and they didn't want to piss me off. But that's just the way we were. We had each other's back, that tight.
Another question. Why were you only allowed in that 4 years?
I decided to re-enlist in 1985. I re-enlisted for 6 years. And when I re-enlisted for CCTV school. That was a school that no submariner had ever been to, and I wanted to go. And because I wanted to go, and I stood on that. I stood on that above everything. I didn't care what you said. You don't know nothing. I'm talking to people that have been out to sea for 18 years, and they're trying to tell me what to do, and I'm a 22-year-old kid that's been out to sea for 7 patrols. You can't tell me what to do. It didn't work out. I went to community of surface sailors. No offense, David, but I went into a community of surface sailors, and first of all, I don't know how to conform to your rules in the first place. Where were you at when I was 1,425 feet under the ocean? That's basically that's my story, and I'm sticking it to it, and you can't change me. The company commander that ran the barracks at Great Lakes when I went to school told me when I first walked in the door, he goes, "Oh, good." He goes, "Dude, you're going to hate it." I don't know if I hated it, but I didn't know what to do either. They put me in charge of a bunch of boiler techs. I'm an E5. The only many people I've been in charge of is like 3 people in my division. I don't know how to march. I don't know none of, I don't even know how to muster you people in uniform because I don't do that. But they wanted me to do all this stuff, and I told them, no, we're not doing all that. You show up, you tell me you're here, we're fine, just like they told me. And all these E3 boiler techs are getting ready to make E4, we're all going, wow, we got the coolest dude on the planet. Not necessarily, but it worked out, I guess. I did get married in 1985. My marriage only lasted 3 years, 4 years, I think, at most. My wife got out when the going was good. When I went to prison the first time, my wife filed for divorce. She got out of it. Good thing. My daughter, I wasn't, crack cocaine didn't allow me to be a father, didn't allow me to be a brother, didn't allow me to be a son. But that was all my choice. Could I have ever reached out for help? Maybe. I don't know. I don't know, because of all the stuff going inside of me, I didn't really know how much I cared. Probably why I tried to commit suicide 3 times. Because I don't deal with the drug addiction so much now. The drug addiction was just a Band-Aid. It was the depression, all this PTSD, all this stuff that I never dealt with that was the problem. And I was the problem. Who's your biggest enemy? Me. I'm the one. I learned that a long time ago, but that doesn't mean I knew how to fix the problem either. Anybody else? Thank you.
All right, let's give one.
This month's lesson is the cost of soldiering, baptism by fire. Comes from 1 Peter 4:12-19. And one of the things for y'all that's received these the PTSD books, can you? If you could, well, maybe I need the microphone.
There you go.
Got to punch the button on, probably. Nope.
Okay. All right. Anyways, for those of you that have these books, the PTSD book. We handed a bunch of these out, you know, it's been a few months back. If you have one, please bring them. That way you can follow along with the lessons. You know, stuff's pretty important. And so we got one new guy here. You're new? Never been here with us before?
I've been the point man, but just been 4 years ago, 3 years.
Okay. Wasn't sure. No. Welcome. Glad to have you here. But move on with this lesson here. I say, you know, it comes from 1 Peter 4:12-19, or 4:12-19. Dear friends, your faith is going to be tested as if it were going through fire. Do not be surprised at this. Be happy that you are able to share some of the suffering of Christ. When his shining greatness is shown, you will be filled with much joy. If men speak bad of you because you are a Christian, you will be happy because the Holy Spirit is in you. None of you should suffer as one who kills another person, or as one who steals, or as one who tries to be the boss of other people's lives. But if a man suffers as a Christian, he should thank God that he is a Christian. The time has come for Christians to stand before God, and he will say who is guilty. If this happens to us, what will happen to those who do not obey the good news of God? If it is hard for a man who is right with God to be saved, what will happen to the sinner? So if God wants you to suffer, give yourself to him. He will do what is right for you. He made you, and he is faithful. Now, a lot of us come out of the military, you know, suffering from different things, you know, the PTSD.